What a fine result it is for Indian football, with India finishing third at the CAFA Nations Cup. And remember, this was a debut that India was making at this prestigious tournament, and it's only because Malaysia pulled out last minute did India get a chance to play there. They were up against teams that were higher ranked than them throughout this tournament, barring Afghanistan, the only team that was ranked below them. But other than that, teams ranked higher than them. And now they qualified firstly, finishing second in their group to play the third place playoff. And there they have won, beating Oman on penalties. Remember, it was 1-1 during full time. But why is this particular result also special? Because leading into this tournament, Indian football was in a terrible state, some real poor performances. You've had a couple of coach changes as well. Finally, you went with an Indian coach in Khalid Jamil, and it's his first tournament in charge, and this is the result that he's produced. India finishing third in the tournament. I'll let Shane run you through the game and whatever happened.
I mean, see, the game was very tightly contested, and that was especially true of how things were in the first and second halves. Before, of course, extra time, I thought a bit of a formality. You could have just shot straight to penalties. But beyond that, I mean, if you see how Oman were playing, they were playing some good football. India, very well organized, but looking to actually create good chances, especially off the break, which is where they got their equalizing goal from. After that, of course, you can say if there's one tiny little bit of a criticism is that India could have gone for the kill earlier, considering that Oman were down to 10 men in the first half of extra time. But I think they were preserving their energy for the penalty shootout, and it was a gamble that paid off, although that penalty shootout did have a few nervous moments, despite India actually being able to romp through. They ended up taking it to the last penalty.
Oman started, firstly, I mean, credit to India, down 1-0. It's never easy. They make that comeback through a super sub in Odanta. And then, I was hoping that he'd be the star. But then he messes up that penalty that India would have ensured India win. And then it was over to Oman, that final penalty. Had they scored, it would have gone into sudden death. You don't know where that game would have gone. But, from the position where India were, them having scored the first two penalties, Oman being abysmal, not even really testing the keeper, one hitting the pole, one really going off the crossbar. From there on, India should win. But then India had a few mishap of their own, eventually winning the game. It will be a relieved Indian team overall. But I must say that, I did like 97th minute, they get a red card, and you thought that India could have used that opportunity to really take a lead and finish the game off even before penalty, because penalties can be a bit of a lottery. But glad they've ended up on the right side of the result.
Yeah, I mean, see, we knew, I think both teams wanted the shootout, which again brings me back to my original point. Why do you need the extra time? You could have gone straight to penalties. I think both teams would have been more than happy, because after a point, if you're watching, there were times when you could see both teams were kind of resting. Like, okay, let the other team do what they have to, then we'll boot it clear. And if we get an attack, then so be it. No one was trying to take the game on. I think they were waiting for the shootout, and that was pretty evident. I think in the shootout, you could see them suddenly, the drooped shoulders were upright. Most of them wanted the shootout, but I think overall, a fantastic job done by the new head coach. He inherited a team in utter tatters and doldrums, and I mean, it doesn't really improve the overall situation of Indian football. We still don't know, what is the future of India's top flight league. We don't know. The tender is yet to come out. The Supreme Court judgments, well, it's still in motion. But I mean, it's a rare moment of, let's say, it's a rare ray of hope. It's saying that, okay, we've got a new head coach, and we keep hearing this talk about, progress takes time. This head coach has come, turn things around, managed to get the team playing the style of football he wants. It says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to just sum up the tournament, and I must say that Khalid Jamil came in for a lot of criticism for the two games that happened, one against Iran, and then soon after that, the game that you play versus Afghanistan. But overall, if you ask me, I'm going to give him a lot of good marks. If I had to rate him, I'll give him about 8 out of 10. And if you think that I'm being generous, I'm not. I think what he did is, get the results. I think that was his mindset. You could look at it that, okay, India weren't attractive in a couple of games, but I understand where he's coming from. Now let's go back and just sum up the tournament. You start with Tajikistan, a team that has had a fantastic run, team that's ranked much higher than you, a team that played the quarterfinal of the AFC Asian Cup. Against them, you win 2-1. And I like the strategy. What he did, he attacked straight at the beginning, caught them by surprise, got those 2 goals, and then went back to parking a bus, whatever you'd like to call it. But defensively, very well organized the team, and they ensured that they win that game. That is a great start. With Iran, again, top opponent, top 20 team in the world. I mean, there's a gulf between the two teams and the performance. And I like that approach. And again, people were like, you've got 25% possession. Iran had more possession, but we expected that. He realized this is a much superior team. If we play open football, we're going to get hammered 4-0, 5-0. Let's play conservative. And that plan would have paid off. Who knows, they could have pulled up a draw. I think that one mistake that happened, that made it 1-0. And then the last two goals, 3-0, were right at the death, injury time. That had to happen because India were trying to get that goal down.
Correct.
And in that, they would have to concede. And so 3-0. Again, no problems. I think the biggest criticism came in that Afghanistan game where India finished 0-0. But again, I defend the team. See, you and I were thinking of it like this is your best chance for India to win, to score some goals. Afghanistan ranked lower than you. Traditionally, you've been better than them. Even though you had lost the last match you had played against them. But you wanted to show some attractive football. But there's a reason why the Indian team played defensively, because in Khalid Jamil's mind, it was qualification. He needed to end with a draw because he knew for Tajikistan to beat Iran would have been next to impossible. Even if they drew, they wouldn't have gone through because India had beaten Tajikistan. That head-on would have counted. And so he knew, just draw with Afghanistan. Why be adventurous? We end up losing. It'll lose us a chance to play the third place playoff. So I completely agree with the coach. May not have been attractive, but very practical. And that is what has led the Indian team to the third place playoff. Today also, as well, they relied on their strengths. Higher ranked team, they were defensive, very well organized. But once they went a goal down, you saw the attractive football that India played. And dare I say, the most heartening thing for me between the two teams is that quite often Indian football teams have looked good, but because of fitness towards the end, they end up conceding. This time, injury time, beyond 90 minutes, the Indian team looked fitter than the Oman team. They were high pressing, they were running much more, even created a few chances of attacking, playing open football. So overall, thumbs up to Khalid Jamil. They only had a 13-day camp before preparing for this tournament. I think the more this team plays under him, he's very practical, may not be attractive, but very practical. And I think Indian football has much to gain from him.
I mean, let's not forget, we're talking about managerial credentials. This man has just beaten a manager in the opposite end of the dugout who's been Sir Alex Ferguson's assistant manager 2 separate occasions, has coached teams the likes of Real Madrid, he's coached the Portuguese national team. Someone with serious ilk in the game. Carlos Queiroz is, of course, the coach of Oman. Ended up getting out-tacticked by Khalid Jamil, the man who has a, let's say, tendency of making teams pull together and play in a way that's greater than the sum of their parts. People tend to forget, I think he gets tarred with an unfair brush because of his stint at East Bengal, which didn't work out well. It didn't work out well, but you also have to remember East Bengal, the expectation is that they play flamboyant football, and they went for Khalid Jamil. No disrespect. I love Khalid, a great coach. But if you see where his strength lays, taking an underdog team and making them world beaters, he proved it with Aizawl FC when they won the I-League. That was an upset for the ages. See what happened to that same Aizawl team the year he left. They got relegated. Of course, they got saved from relegation because the AIFF decided to not relegate. That's a whole different story. But they were that sort of a team. They played collective football, played well. You see the kind of job he even did at Jamshedpur FC. Very, very good. Very, very good manager. Someone who plays, tactically he may be a little behind the times, but I mean, with the resources at hand, I don't blame him. He's not playing here with all of his best attacking players. No Chhetri, remember, by choice. You don't have your biggest goal scorer, and they've still done really well. I'm really happy with how they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I last time I met him was at the AIFF Awards. I was hosting it, and he won the Coach of the Year. And once he took his award, I tried to get him to say something. Nothing. He's a man of few words. Never will you see him give interviews or talk. Very shy in that, that personality. Very reticent. You won't really have him, speak his mind out. But at the end of the day, his job is to get the team organized, and that he's done very well. Exciting times ahead for Indian football. If you didn't watch this game, the highlights are always available on FanCode. You can check that out. For the moment, from Shane and I, thank you so much for watching. Give us a like on the video if you're enjoying our content. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to Sports Today.